Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm your guest host, Les Fleiszig. I know that shouldn't mean anything to anybody, and if it does, then you need to get a more interesting life. Today, on the second season finale of Bonn Park, I'm going to be interviewing the regular hosts, Sara and Marshall Ward, two fine people. And I've had the opportunity of being interviewed by them, and they're just great people.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Do you enjoy Bonn Park podcast?
If so, we would really appreciate it if you
Leave a review,
like, rate, subscribe, but most importantly,
share directly from the platforms
with your family and friends. That's the best way to get the word out to everybody, and more people will get to see our show that way. So click those like buttons and share our show. Thank you.
Thanks.
On with the show. This is it.
So we're going to start off. So just Marshall, this is your full 2 years behind you.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
And
No, scene. No. Anyways, have you guys covered though how you kind of met and got started and all that?
yeah, but it's always a good story to retell because I don't know who's digging back to January 2020 to listen to how Marshall and I met. You know?
Let's.
I always tell it. So let's let Marshall tell it this time.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah, we were full-time stay-at-home parents in the Clara Hills neighborhood. And I would head over to Bonn Park, which was just steps away from my home. And same goes for Sara. And Sara was one of many mums that would be there. And for me, I always described it as it's like a beacon of hope. Being a stay-at-home parent, being a stay-at-home dad is kind of like a square peg in a round hole, kind of. At least it was for me back then. It felt like that. And these moms who were there, they were a big part of, if I just spent even half an hour with them, of my social time, right? And conversation. And in Sara's case, a really meaningful conversation, not just about the kind of raising babies and little kids and diapers and formula, but rather really meaningful conversations that for me was part of kind of reclaiming a part of my identity that I felt like I lost. So we talk about art and music and our community. And so these women became really important in my life.
Cool. And
then our lives kind of, it's like when siblings, I guess, kind of, they start to raise families and sometimes they go do that and get busy.
Yeah.
And then they find each other again. And that was the case with Sara and I, where, I would say I saw her a few times over the years and her husband, Steve. And then I was just walking by her house early one morning and she saw me out the window here. And we struck up a conversation and talked for hours. And I think a short time after that, Sara said, "Do you want to do a podcast?" And I'd never considered it. I don't know anything about this technology.
Yeah, yeah.
But I said, if you think you know how to make this work, let's give that a go.
I had no idea
Yeah.
how to do it.
I don't mean to square peg you, but were you the only dad then at that time?
For sure.
Yeah.
I've never met another full-time stay-at-home dad, and it doesn't count when some guy says, I was a full-time stay-at-home dad for 6 months. No.
Yeah.
I was for 8 years.
Oh, listen, and that's, I don't think I don't think men can fully ever appreciate that unless they're in that scenario. Myself, I got a taste of it because my wife worked a lot of shift work. So it was like we passed each other. I came home, it was just me and the kids at night. So, but still, it wasn't, I maintain to this day, if it wasn't for her, my kids would have never got through school because she did all those things like sign the notes, the papers. Like there's so much day-to-day, and I would call not just day-to-day maintenance for your kids that I got nothing but kudos for any parent at home, male or female.
I don't know why this one moment really stands out for me, but it was just a weekday afternoon, and we are having a new bed delivered. And the guys took it upstairs, and the one guy said, "Did you have to take the afternoon off work?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm a full-time stay-at-home parent." And he goes, "Must be nice."
Yeah.
If I can't count how many times. And other moms, like moms who work outside of the house. Because both of us worked inside the house. Marshall, you were always a writer and artist, and I was always doing photography. But the amount of other moms that would be like, "Oh, it must be nice to be home." Oh yeah, it's a total cakewalk.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to interject with a little comment here too about, they should have mentioned that part of the reason that your podcast intrigues me, and I always read in the paper, you two guys, girls, you two people are probably the most kindest, gentlest souls that can exist in this social media environment that I've ever met. Like I read your article in the Chronicle every week because I says, this guy doesn't see a mean word about anything. And there's opportunities for you to, even take a couple of side shots and then go, you should be working in the UN. Same as you. You guys really keep it above water. And I think that attributes a lot to your success. Because, to me, the easy road, if you want the quick laugh or something, it tries to get really acerbic or derogatory. I mean, because everybody sees Howard Stern. Well, there's only one of him out there, right? So, I think that act can get old real quick. But I think in terms of longevity, and I think you guys will be on a long time because guests are going to acclimatize to you, they come kind of, you want to call it a safe environment, positive environment. So, I hope you don't ever lose sight of that. But I think, it's... What's that from that movie? Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Thank you. Thanks for expressing that.
Yeah.
And I just think that's something that need to be said. Any comments on meeting then, Sarah?
On meeting Marshall?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he missed the best part of this. I told you to tell the story. Now I'm correcting you. You missed the best part of the story when we ran into each other before we started this podcast, which was I saw a glimpse of your hat out the side window, and I was making myself a smoothie. I'm up at the crack of dawn, family's asleep, and I whipped that kitchen window over here open so fast I almost hurt myself. And I was like, Marshall, can you have time to talk to me? Could barely get the words out the window. And he's like, yeah, no problem, And then that's, like he said, we talked for hours on the sidewalk. And then I think that was like a Saturday, and on the Monday I emailed you and said, hey buddy, you want to make a podcast? And then that's when the brainstorming began.
It was really serendipitous. I remember going for my walk and thinking, do I want to walk this way today or this way? Mm-hmm. And I made a last minute decision just to take a walk this way. Mm-hmm. And then I would say that what we didn't know going into it was, I refer to it as chemistry, right? That you have with somebody, right? And I had a pretty good idea, this should work pretty well, I think. And but after a while, I realized, there's a really amazing collaborative chemistry here in the way that we respect each other and think about our guests and think about our listening skills. Mm-hmm. And also, you get to a point, too, where we don't want to cut each other off, right? And talk over each other. Yeah. And neither of us wants to dominate the conversation either. And something just kind of naturally falls into place that you almost don't even think about it anymore.
We have cues. I wait. I can tell if you take a breath that you're thinking something, or the way you lean into your microphone.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have to check myself because I'm a master interrupter. It's just how I talk. I try not to, but it's just trying to get that thought out all the time. I don't know why.
Oh, listen, that comes with age. I was the king of all interrupters, you know, and you got to be conscious of trying to be a better listener. Yeah. So
it's always weird to be around couples who cut each other off all the time. It's an odd thing. And it doesn't seem to bother either partner sometimes. Someone starts telling a story and they go, "No, that's not what happened," and then now they're telling the story.
You know what, Marshall? Though unfortunately, that stuff seems and again, I'm just speaking from older experience. After a while, that catches up where the person that's cutting off just begins to think they can get away with it, and it sours the relationship because then they try to take this alpha role in what should be a 50-50 part. And it's the little things. I always say that. The little things speak volumes about people. Mm-hmm. Like holding the door open for your wife and then tripping her on the way in.
I just heard, or Bob Egan told me this, actually. It wasn't part of a podcast. It was just a conversation. Bob Egan of Blue Rodeo said, Jim Cuddy, his former bandmate,
Yeah.
said the way I measure someone up when I first meet them out in public, you can imagine how many people could walk up to Jim Cuddy, right?
Yeah.
As he says, is I measure them up by whether they acknowledge my wife, who's standing right beside me, and if they engage her in a conversation that's more than a couple words. And I thought, yeah, that's really important, right? You can just see how somebody might do that. They might just look right at the person they want a moment, some time with, and treat the other person like they're invisible.
Mm-hmm.
There was and I remember it was either I'm pretty sure the movie was A Bronx Tale. Did you ever see it?
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, it's 80s, 90s. You know, one of those like Carlito's Way. It's about a kid whose dad's Robert De Niro plays the dad, and he's a good living guy, and the kid has to in the neighborhood does he idolize a local gangster, blah blah blah. But there's a story in there that comes. The guy says, whenever I date a girl, right, when I get out of the car, I lock both doors. All right, and what I do is it's the door test, and what I do is unlock the door, let her in the door, and I walk around the back of the car to get to my door. And if she reaches across and opens the door, I'm asking her out again. If she sits there and waits,
Yeah.
I send her packing.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what?
That's so true.
It's so true. And that was my wife, right from the get-go. Like,
Oh yeah, Kath is no bullshit, no nonsense, common sense, good person.
and those are the little cues and triggers, as you said, about people. This is going to be this one's out of the blue because this happened to me, and I know what a games and toy buff you are. But I was in Swanson's Home Hardware the other day, because all the lumber there and everything. On the shelf, they had Rock'em Sock'em robots out again, Mattel, and it was Mattel. And do you know anything about the resurgence of some of these baby boomer toys? Like, you know, you used to have to go on the internet to find some obsolete case, but and of course I bought it.
Of course, as you should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there's Stretch Armstrong. There's lots of this stuff that has come out. And as much as the artwork and the what I see, it often just fills my heart with complete joy and nostalgia, and it can awaken memories that I haven't thought of in ages. Really special memories, you know. I'm always disappointed by the lightweight kind of quality of them compared to the way toys were made in the 70s. So that's the thing I always notice right away as I go, I wish they had made it so it was heavy.
Well, the funny thing too is it wasn't as heavy because my brother-in-law has the original version they found, right? And it's just a lighter version. And of course, I'm trying to get my granddaughter to play with it. And once she lost a couple of times, now she has to pull the robots out, and they're nice robots that they play with their Barbies.
I remember like the one robot would hit the other one. Sometimes like it would like bend back like in a way that like the spine doesn't.
Yeah. So if you, and I'm going to ask each, if you could have one toy from your past, what would it be?
Well, that's a really good question. I was very into Matchbox Cars, so my Hot Wheels racetrack with the pullback action, loved that. There was a Chewbacca figurine that I lost in the Bahamas with my family that I would want those two back. And then my original Hungry Hungry Hippos game, because it was heavier and the board didn't jump around when you played it. Those are mine.
Marshall?
Mine would be my Star Wars action figures and my G.I. Joe action figures. And we're not talking big G.I. Joes with the a hair, but rather the small version of the G.I. Joes, which then became my wrestling figures because they could, before the wrestling dolls came out, you could use G.I. Joes.
I was just going to bring up, this is a good time to talk about our friend Rob DeSilva from 3D Vintage Toy Stuff and Things, because you had a great find at his shop the other day.
Yeah, he's located in the Peddler's Village of the St. Jacobs Farmers Market.
Okay.
Just a little booth, nostalgic toy booth. It's amazing. Like,
is that right?
You walk up to it and you're just like, oh my gosh, look at this, right? You can imagine E.T., Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Strawberry Shortcake, Cabbage Patch Kids.
I could even imagine further back.
Yeah, I'm just talking more 80s toys. And I have an LJN rubber wrestling figure, the wrestling dolls that I collected in the 80s. And so I've got my collection, and then there's a bunch of them out there that are very elusive to me. I don't think I'll ever be able to get them. The Sergeant Slaughter doll is like $1,000 on eBay all the time kind of thing. Anyways, I found a wrestling figure that I didn't have. That's the first time in probably 10 years I found a wrestling doll that I didn't have, and it was sitting in the cardboard box right there. And Rob gave me an awesome deal. If you're listening, Rob, thank you. And I was it's amazing how like a 50-year-old man can like be so happy about finding
Well,
a
you
toy.
sent me pictures of it.
Yeah.
You talked about the day.
You tell you what, for me, there's this toy, and it dates back to the 60s, and I'm just going to ask you because I wonder if you've seen it. It's called Johnny 7. And
What's that? I don't
it
know.
was a gun that was 7 guns in one. And I mean, it was legit good because I used to always set it up and shoot at my sister coming downstairs. It would have, I could still tell you this, they had you pull back a ratchet, it had a machine gun sound, it had a detachable pistol, a
You'll
cap
shoot your
pistol.
eye out.
Oh, they had hard bullets, and the missile, like guys talking, the missiles that shot out, like they were spring loaded, they were hard plastic. Oh yeah, you could lose an eye, no question, eh? It's like that old Daisy BB gun thing. Hey there, Dad, look at that! I shot Billy's eye out. You know, but
Those toys from the 1930s are really something. I'm talking big tanks, right?
Right.
And a Buck Rogers gun, and these should be in a museum. The way those toys look from that era.
And really, it's phenomenal the mechanical engineering that goes into them. Like, you know, you don't got silicon chips to be doing that. It's got to be like finely honed mechanical springs, and it's, you know, it's almost like these Swiss watches and things like that. It's really cool. All right, enough about toys. but while we're going to lead into that, I'm going to go with what was your favorite Christmas cartoon movie?
Oh, that's a good one. Do we have the same one?
So it's got to be a cartoon.
Does it have to be a cartoon?
No, any some TV, whatever, whether it's
Count to 3 and let's see if we say the same one.
1, 2, 3.
Christmas Eve on Sesame Street.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't even sure because we've talked about it, but not at great length.
Oh no, that is without question my favorite
Big bird with the
cartoon.
icicles
Sorry,
coming out of her
Christmas
nose.
special. And then that's an interesting question, actually, cartoon, because like Frosty the Snowman is definitely a cartoon. But do you think of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer as a cartoon? You
I
know
do.
that?
The claymation for sure.
Yeah. I would have pegged that in my top 3, like that one, because you know the Island of Misfits, and that was just cool. And then for me, the monster was pretty scary.
Oh yeah,
but then in the end he was cool, and it was. Good.
I think that special's magical. Like I feel something pretty amazing when I watch that movie. Wow, that movie has stood up. Yeah, like it's a masterpiece.
Great music.
Yeah,
Burl Ives.
We're on the island of misfit joys. Sorry, world.
Yeah, so that's cool then.
It's just recently that I've realized the kind of role that Sesame Street has played in the life of me and Marshall. Marshall's an uber fan of Sesame Street. Like, you'll still watch it, am I right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And for me, I was just in front of the TV a lot when I was little, and that's what was on, right? And that's what we were watching. There wasn't anything on demand or anything like that. But we recently accidentally talked about the graphics and the video and the music and the emotion of Sesame Street. It's just come up in conversation with some other projects and things that we're working on. And it always seems to come back to this whole people in your neighborhood thing for me and Marshall. It really does. And that might be a big reason why we are the way we are.
I was just going to ask you, do you kind of, was it unintentional or intentional that you're modeling your podcast after Sesame Street?
I think it's unintentional, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah,
we have our notes from brainstorming sessions when we were going to call it regretting Sara Marshall or stupid words Sarah can't spell, and you had things your in-laws say. We had all these different ideas, and it landed on talking to the people in our neighborhood, but it wasn't in that Sesame Street way. It's just sort of evolved into that. Am I right, Marshall?
Yeah, for sure. I want to say 2 things about Sesame Street. The one is I think that, and you mentioned this, the kindness, right, thing. I think Grover has got to be one of the sweetest, kindest characters ever, which is also
really,
yeah, and just I think I inherently saw something in Grover that I wanted to be more like Grover, right? And then with regards to Christmas Eve on Sesame Street, one of the stories in that movie that just I find so incredibly touching year after year. It's a story of it was taken from an old Christmas story called "The Gift of the Magi." But it's that's what it's a play on. But it's
I know that.
Yes. Story. So Bert and Ernie need to buy each other a Christmas present, right? And they don't have much, right?
Yeah.
So Bert goes down to Mr. Hooper's store and he sells his paperclip collection. So he can buy a soap dish for Ernie's rubber ducky.
Yeah.
Ernie takes his rubber ducky to Mr. Hooper's store, sells it to get a box for Bert's paperclip collection,
I think
right?
it's a cigar box even.
It's a cigar box, yeah. And
hilarity ensues.
I won't go from there, but Mr. Hooper plays a big role in how this story comes together. It is so touching. It's such a gorgeous little story. It's the very best of Ernie and Bert, you know, and it's like this incredible masterpiece inside a big Sesame Street movie, and it's just something truly awesome.
I got two questions. And then we'll move on from there. But have you seen the Our Street Gang documentary?
Yep, I have.
I've yet to watch it. I've taped it. Is it good?
Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah,
Okay.
and the book too.
Yeah. Second, it was interesting because my kids, you know, and even my brothers, I remember, because we're talking, it's 50 years now, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Marshall.
Yeah,
50 years.
over 50, yeah.
Yeah, so my younger brothers, they were raised on Sesame Street, and they were 10, 12 years younger than me, you know, and even the kids, you know, they were raised on it. But my granddaughter, Blake, has no idea what it is, which is kind of almost a bit disheartening, you know, because I'm trying to get her there, you know, and they got
She wants Paw Patrol.
well, yeah, they want Paw Patrol, right, and they want Peppa Pig, and you know, and I don't know, I just think there's a lot more value and there's a lot to be taught in Sesame Street, so
For sure.
right, so,
I agree.
yeah.
We're going to take a moment to hear from this episode's sponsors. We are supported by Ennio's Pasta House. Ennio's has been providing Waterloo region with the wonders of home-style Italian cooking since 1994. Ennio Renan, a local entrepreneur with a passion for cooking, grew up in northern Italy and arrived in Canada with a dream to open a restaurant. He had 2 pots, 2 pans, a strainer, and a stove. There are so many flavors to explore at Ennio's, from classic spaghetti and meatballs to Annabella sliced roasted chicken and sweet sun-dried tomatoes tossed in a creamy pesto Alfredo sauce with penne. Have we got your attention? If what you just heard sounds irresistible, check out Ennio's online at enniospasta.ca or order via Uber Eats and skip the dishes. Ennio's is located at 665 Fairway Road South in Kitchener and 384 King Street North in Waterloo. Buen appetito! We are supported by Good Boys Duct Cleaning. Are you moving? Renovating? Do you have a new baby on the way or perhaps guests? Are you sneezing more than usual? Call the Good Boys. Locally owned and operated, they do residential duct cleaning as well as commercial and industrial, and they do it well. And get this, they never solicit by phone. That's not Good Boys calling you during dinner. Their cleaning technology rids your ducts of dirt and dust, allowing you and your family to breathe easy.
We hired Good Boys to clean the ducts of my family's home, and we all feel like the air is cleaner. Professional, friendly, affordable, and they answered all our questions. I would recommend them to anybody.
Check them out at goodboyservices.ca or call 519-893-0046 today to get your fresh start. We are supported by Soy Sauce. Soy Sauce is a Canadian hot sauce, so Twitchin' Kitchen magician Eric Begg includes a free apology in every bottle. Award-winning farm-to-table hot sauce made with all natural ingredients and homegrown peppers from his garden of apologies. From mild jalapeno sauce to the hottest all-natural sauce in Canada, Soy Sauce has something for every heat level or food pairing. And Eric has a short attention span, so there's always a new recipe in the works. Like Curry Curry Hard, winner of the 2021 Canadian Hot Sauce Award for Best New Product. If you're a lover of all things spicy, you'll be sorry if you don't try this stuff. Come visit Soy Sauce on Saturdays at the Guelph Farmers Market and check out their whole fiery line at soysauce.ca. And now back to the show.
Beatles versus Rolling Stones.
Beatles all the way.
Yeah, Beatles.
Beatles?
Yeah.
Okay.
How about you?
Rolling Stones initially for years, and now I'm trending towards Beatles.
Interesting.
Well, because I'm a minimalist, and I don't want to take too long, but to me, the Rolling Stones are a garage band. They do a lot with nothing.
Yep.
I mean, Keith's not a shredder, you know, right? Like they get, you know, and Mick's to me is the ultimate showman.
Yeah, one-trick pony.
You know, Alice Cooper, everybody needs theatrics. He comes out there and gyrates.
That's why people love it.
Yeah, right. And I don't know if you saw. He's not a bad actor. Did you see the? It's about 5 years old, 10 years old. This skit, you can YouTube it, where he's with like he was the guest host. And he was...
We're talking SNL?
Yeah, SNL. And he was a business guy. All 5 of them out for a business lunch.
Yeah.
And they were at a karaoke bar doing Mick Jagger tunes, right? And he's going, that's not Mick Jagger. And it's just this really, it's really funny. But Beatles for sure. Now, why is that? Is it musically, or you go first?
For me, it's musically. I love the Rolling Stones. I love their music. I always have. There's pockets of it that remind me of my and not that I was coming to it late anyway, right? Just because of my age. But there's pockets of it and years of it that remind me specifically of my youth, and I can recall smells and temperatures and sound just like Marshall can with his wrestling history, encyclopedia of a mind. But for me, the Beatles, it's the music, right? So it's the basis from which all the rest of the rock comes. Yes and no. I know it's also stolen from places as well. But anything like even my kids, like what they're listening to now, I can appreciate their music on a chronological historical level because I can hear things in it that they can't hear, right?
Because you've heard it.
Because I've heard it before. And I'm not talking about resamples or samples or loops or mixes or anything like that. I mean, I know, is it Drake who has a sample of Michelle right now? And it's a loop of I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And she's like, why do I feel like this song is a ripoff? I'm like, it's Michelle. That's why it's Michelle. But even just chord progressions, there's only so many of those in the world. That's why you can't copyright them. The things are going to sound the same after a while. But those basic harmonies, and again, the Beatles did a lot with a little. But it was a magical combination where they could come up with this stuff together.
It's funny you mentioned that, but you know what? I'm going to be the good guest host. What about you, Marshall? And then I'm going to both give you some thought after this question.
Okay.
Back on beats. Give me one of your top 3 Beatles songs. I'm not going to ask you to pick a favorite, and let me know why you like it.
But first, you're going to answer why the Beatles, right?
Yeah. So Beatles are like my childhood, right? I remember I listened to Sgt. Pepper's every night for an entire year on a Fisher-Price record player.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a ritual. I always found time at the end of the day to listen to, and I don't know why I was doing that. I was a kid, and the Rolling Stones for me was more my teenage years, and that's because I just loved how sexual and dangerous they were. Even now, when I hear "Gimme Shelter," I just think, "Holy smokes, what an incredible piece of music!"
Did you ever watch that documentary, 20 Feet from Stardom?
Nope.
About the singer, and I should look it up so we know. Did you watch it?
No.
The singer who sang that, the backup.
Yeah.
Rape,
Yeah.
murder.
No, I haven't.
It's fascinating, the whole story. I'm not going to ruin it because I want people to go watch it. You can get it
I've
on
heard
YouTube.
of it. I've heard of
20
it.
Feet from Stardom. It's all about basically black artists from that time being paid peanuts or being ripped off, recording and then slapping somebody else's label on the record, and how they were treated, and mostly just the love of music that they brought to all of those bands. It's fascinating. You should really watch it.
Yeah, and I'll first say, right, talk about stripped down songs. Let It Be. This is the acoustic guitar, piano, basically that's it. And what a great tune, So, favorite Beatles song?
My number one is a weird one. For some reason, I'm Looking Through You has always been one of my favorites because it reminds me of a time and place in my childhood when I was really into Rubber Soul.
So then how many times did you watch Yellow Submarine?
Once.
Really?
I watched it once, yeah. Only because of circumstance. I think the Hearths, right? Lenny Lilac, Leon Hearth, Emily Hearth, I think they had a VHS of it and we watched it at their house. I don't think I had access to it on my own.
I was young enough that ABC TV would run a movie every Sunday at noon, or Channel 7, right? Cable. And, they were regularly the Tarzan movies, and they once a year would run Yellow Submarine, the toys. So I bet I've seen it at least 7-8 times.
Hard Day's Night and Help I probably saw 50 times each.
Yeah, see, I couldn't get into them.
No.
They were almost, I was better off watching Monty Python.
But I was probably an obsessed teeny bopper with the Beatles in the wrong era.
Marshall, your song?
I hope this counts as a song. It's the side B of Abbey Road.
Sure it does.
Right? Yeah, because it's all kind of got me, Mr. Mustard, Maxwell Silver Hammer.
Maxwell Silver
in the
Hammer.
end, right? They all
it.
beautifully kind of move into
What's
one another.
Maxwell Silver Hammer about?
I don't know.
I was looking it up too.
Figured
there's
murder.
a part of me. Well, there's a part of me that when I read some theories on it, that it was the symbolic of the hammer that they hit the head of the Pope with. When he died.
Who's Maxwell?
What about Rolling Stones song? You said "Give Me Shelter," right? Or did
For Marshall.
I would say "Give Me Shelter."
Yeah.
yeah?
I would also add that I'll never forget seeing the Rolling Stones on the Steel Wheels tour. So Sylvia and I, my wife Sylvia, we went to 5 concerts. In December 1999, we went to 5 concerts in Toronto. We saw Paul McCartney on that Tripping the Live Fantastic tour, right? We saw Rolling Stones on the Steel Wheels tour. We saw The Cult. We saw Aerosmith with Skid Row, and we saw Alice Cooper.
Whoa!
And Rolling Stones opened that show with 2,000 Light Years from Home, and I wasn't familiar with that song for some reason, but what an incredible opener. So, but anyways, no, Give Me Shelter is still the song for me.
And you, Sarah?
Sarah, were you gesturing that you were at those shows as well?
No, I've heard this story, and I was trying to see if I remember.
Oh, okay.
I've never had a summer that fun in my life. Play with fire? Play with me because you're playing with fire? Isn't that what it's called? It's really awkward. So you've got your whatever.
Yeah.
So don't play with me.
You keep singing, honey, and you're not going to be. You're going to be snapped away from this podcast.
Oh, yeah,
You're going to realize what a great voice you have.
Actually, I'm going to take this moment before we talk about Maxwell Edison. I just looked up. I'm going to take this moment to publicly apologize to all the people who who told me I did such a great job singing at the beginning of this podcast. So at the opening of Bonn Park podcast, there was a beautiful voice, and that is Paige Warner, local musician. She has the voice of an angel. Later in the show, Marshall and I do a call to action where we tell you to follow us, and I sing, "On with the show, this is it." That's me. The good part is Paige Warner. I just want to let everybody know that who congratulated me on such a job well done. That wasn't me.
For me, it's the old text, sympathy for the devil.
Oh, yeah.
And only because they're so young when they wrote it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say
and the
first.
depth of the lyrics, you know. And,
For sure, yeah.
Like, that's one of those, you know, to me, it's like a song like Who Invents Calculus? It just comes out of nowhere. Or Gravity. And I'm thinking, man, those guys are, 19, 20 years old, and they pulled that one out of the hat?
I always say, though, the young people do the good writing because they're so brooding and moody, and they're full of so much emotion that they don't know what to do with because they don't have any experience yet.
There was a song by a group called Live in the 80s called Lightning Crashes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, and it's the old song where one baby being born and a grandmother dying. And those guys were only like 20, 21 when they wrote it. And I was talking to Buddy about that. I says, how can somebody so young have that much insight into that experience? Any comments on that, on creativity?
Well, I do have a comment about that. First of all, how about Paul McCartney writing Yesterday when he was 22, right? So one of my favorite interviews I ever did was with Canadian record producer and icon, David Foster.
You did an interview with him?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And I said to him, what happens to people's creativity from 20 to 30 to 40 to 50? I use the example of Neil Young. I have so much love for Neil Young records. Yeah. But Neil Young's never going to write another Harvest, right? He's never going to write another After the Gold Rush. And David Foster flat out said, somewhere around 50, it's gone. He said, you become incapable of it. He said, and those who keep trying to do it, it's embarrassing to see. You know what I mean? He said that he's talking about songwriting.
That's really interesting because
he said it's gone.
Ironically, you know, and I'm a big architect fan, right? And the great architecture, the guys that light her up don't really light it up till they're about late 50s, 60s. Like Frank Lloyd Wright did Falling Water when he was 70-something, and Guggenheim, like all this good stuff, you know, and Frank Gehry, you know, was out there. These guys, you look at their age when they really light it up, and I'm thinking, and I think that's interesting because, you know, I think that has to come from a body of work, the architect, you know, experiences, mistakes, and stuff like that. Or I guess music is not so forgiving. Like, you better get your act together.
Yeah, get going.
You know,
and everyone loves an ingenue. In the words of Taylor Swift, like nobody wants to hear.
Sorry, what was that?
Everyone loves an ingenue. Everyone loves the young, beautiful, new voice and what they have to say, and everyone's so perplexed and mesmerized by the younger you are and the more important words you have to say. Right? In songwriting, we just were talking about it. We're impressed when somebody young is writing with such maturity that we understand, when really we could be taking something different from that they didn't even intend.
Do you think in this day and age of music, those young people are writing, or are they having the lyrics written for them, as opposed to?
Oh, it's both, right?
You know, like when you talk about McCartney or those guys, they were writing those.
Yeah,
they were penning those
songs. As far as we know, yeah,
that's true. But
we have to watch Get Back. But wait, while we're talking Beatles for a second, let's call back to Maxwell Silverhammer. I will read you what the internet says. It says, Maxwell Edison is the main protagonist villain of the 1969 Beatles song Maxwell Silverhammer. He is a serial killer who was majoring in medicine as a college student until he murders a love interest, his teacher, and his judge.
Now, is that based on fiction, or there was a Maxwell, like Jack the Ripper kind of guy?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, actually, that's great, because that pops a topic into my head that I know that's dear and near to Marshall's heart, is horror and slasher films. And I, too, am a big fan. Anything horror, right?
What's your favorite horror movie?
Oh, Exorcist, hand down.
Yeah.
Only because I just happen to be 16 years old only at the time, 17-year-old, now young 16 and 17, and I had to have all my questions done right, because nobody was buying my idea at the time, but I had to see that movie. And, coming from a strong Catholic family background, and there were priests and nuns protesting, and they were showing it at the old Fox Theater down across where the museum was. And, even today, like, I know the special effects and everything, but man, what they did was like lights out. And then number 2 behind it, American Werewolf in London.
Oh, yeah.
One I've never seen. I confess to Marshall, I've never seen that one.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it.
That's an awesome movie, too. So The Exorcist, what continues to amaze me about it all these years later is that somehow in one single film, they managed to create something incredibly elegant and beautiful, and at the same time, something so crass.
Yeah.
That all these years later still surprises me. Like, it's, wow, how did they do that?
I'm not sure what major studio did it, but they paid $400 million for the rights to it, to remake them all. The book Legion.
Really?
Yeah. I know. We're talking almost $500 million. And the horror genre can you pin it down? Like, some people like just the slasher, movies. Some are Friday the 13th, the Halloween, the Scream, campy stuff. Some like the religious, mysterious. So there's kind of genres within that horror.
For sure.
Is there any one that you kind of gravitate to, or?
Yeah. So in my collection of hundreds and hundreds of horror DVDs, I would say the one I enjoy most is a really well-made haunted house movie. I think the haunted house, like The Conjuring, the Amityville Horror, Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've often said that, like, when the house becomes a character, that's what pulls you in, right?
Yeah, and when you deeply care about the family in that house, and because what could be scarier than your house being haunted?
I remember seeing Amityville Horror in the theater, and I'm like a young guy, never going to keep his mouth shut. And there's a line where it's just all going south, and the father says, screams at the house, "What do you want from me?" And the theater's dead silent, and I chirp out from the back, "The rent." Yeah. And the theater it cracked open, like everybody was that tense moment, everybody was laughing.
That's awesome.
That's good, Les.
Sarah, what about you?
Oh, I don't like horror. We
okay,
we did a whole Halloween thing. The one question that Marshall and I want to ask everyone is, have you seen Human Centipede?
You know what? I don't know that I could bring myself to watch it.
We can't either. We've never seen it. I unfortunately Googled it once, and I saw just a little corner of an image, and I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, when I read the premise, whatever.
It's pretty awful. No, I'm a scaredy cat. I don't like anything scary. I like light, fluffy movies. I mean, I like stuff with meat too, but like not Saw,
Yeah. Did you see the latest? I think Chris Rock bought the franchise or something, because I watched the one. Have you watched the one with
Saw?
him? With Spiral. It's called Spiral.
Yeah.
And it's a copycat thing based on the Saw movies. And Chris Rock plays the lead in it. And when I watched the credits, he's also the executive producer. So, it starts off Chris Rock comedy, but it kind of, I give him, he was a heck of a lot better than I thought he'd be.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen any of that.
No, so it's worth it just to see Chris Rock act in it. So
I only saw Saw for the first time 2 weeks ago. I had never seen Saw before, and I haven't seen really any movies from that genre. For whatever reason, I just haven't seeked them out.
I read an article, and this one's dated, but they basically said that Saw franchise saved Lionsgate.
Oh, really?
They were on the verge, financially, when I think it was during the recession too, during 2008 when the series came out, that the whole Saw franchise was so cheap to make, and they got great returns on it. The comedy today, like, where do you think comics are going to go? You're much more involved in social media, and where's comedy going? Because with cancel culture and social media, and it's so tough, you know. And the funny thing is, when you hear, you know, cases like Chappelle or even Chris Rock says, you know what, like, the funny thing is, guys, we're done doing colleges. Where's comedy going? Is it?
I'll say that. I mean, maybe I'm not qualified to talk on this subject, so I'll just say it from my own perspective. And that is, I am 100% coming from a place of privilege here, where I've had pretty much a golden path my whole life. You know, aside from being a woman, you know, I don't have any other intersectionalities that make me vulnerable to I don't know, hate, right? Aside from my personality. So I've never walked away from any comedy that I've consumed and been offended. So I've never walked away from anything and thought, oh, that was rough, or geez, wow, they're really going to have to pay for that joke. I take it for comedy. So, you know, when I read Tina Fey's book, she was talking about a really rough joke that they had done. Was it Bossy Pants? I think it's called. It's fantastic.
Yeah, Miss Bossy Pants.
Yeah. She was talking about a really rough joke, and she had a public apology to the family. And that's one thing, because you're the comedian. And she full on admitted, you know, I didn't do my research. I forget what it was. It was about a child that had been hurt. As a consumer of comedy, I've never walked away and thought that was too far. That was too far. Because I think everyone is a target, like we were saying before we started here. I mean, nothing's really off limits. And especially if I'm not of a group that the comic is from, you know, how can I judge what they have to say? Some of it's better than other stuff. I am a lifelong fan of SNL. And again, the Hearth family got me into that. Yeah. Our podcast is basically about how I want to be a Hearth, right?
Yeah.
So lifelong fan of SNL through every cast, just been there, you know, through all the decades. And even when it's a bit of a slower week on it, I appreciate it for what it is. And I was a big fan of Louis C.K. And I know that we're supposed to cancel him too, but that guy was freaking funny.
Well, we're supposed to cancel him. I don't buy into that. Who is we? You know,
exactly. I know.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something that we all sort of say now, is I know we're not really supposed to like them anymore, especially with, you know, the division that's happening with COVID and vaccinations and all that kind of stuff. Oh, we're not really supposed to support them anymore. But that's my point. I've never walked away from comedy and thought that went too far. Not once.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like George Carlin, a long time ago, the late great George Carlin was talking about this when he would talk about how, you know, we used to call it shell shock. Yeah. Now it's post-traumatic stress disorder, right?
Yeah,
he would talk about the softening of language. Mm-hmm. But I would say that I actually, when I think about things today, Les, I go back to a Looney Tunes box set that I bought for my daughters when they were little, and I loved watching these with them. At the beginning, there's an introduction by Whoopi Goldberg, and I'm talking, I think this thing it might be 15 years old now or something. Yeah. And Whoopi goes, so what you're about to watch? She goes, I love Looney Tunes. She goes, this is why I love Looney Tunes. She talks about her love for Looney Tunes. She goes, she said, and she explains what you're gonna, some of the things you're going to see. And she said, we can either bury these in a hole and make them go away forever, or we can enjoy them and recognize that this is who we were in America back in these decades, in this era. Mm-hmm. And she said, I fully support the idea of moving these cartoons forward, right? Oh, for future generations. She goes, I think they're awesome, right? And so I always think to myself, that really is very meaningful to me, that Whoopi could put things in context. I think about how my favorite sitcom, All in the Family, will that never be on TV again?
No.
What you're missing by not having All in the Family around is this was a show that tackled deadly serious subject matter many times. Mm-hmm. And then add to that, once you have the spin-offs, the Jeffersons, Gloria, and also Archie Bunker's Place. In the second season of Archie Bunker's Place, Edith dies, and Archie's left alone.
I remember that episode.
It is the most touching moment in television history. Archie Bunker sitting with Edith's slippers on the bed, and basically talking to Edith as though she was there. And it's
man, that's a tearjerker. Now that you bring it back.
Oh.
But you've talked a lot on the show about rewatching Love Boat and WKRP. And taking from it what it is, right? So I think you've said, Marshall, if I can speak for you, that WKRP was trying to push the limits.
They sure were.
And put the message out, where Love Boat was just like, opposite.
Right.
Which
Yeah.
I remember being uncomfortable watching Love Boat and like in the same room as my family sometimes.
Yeah,
because I was like,
watching Love Boat now is really something.
I love Boat. I
So
just didn't
so
find it.
so that's
That's
the
what Jimmy
reaction
Cordeas
every
said to you
time.
yesterday.
That is the reaction. I love the Love Boat. That is the reaction I get from every person when Love Boat is mentioned.
yeah,
I just thought it was weak writing.
you're a special soul, Marshall. You love it.
I think I know what it is I watched it with my mom.
Yeah, it was a tradition.
Oh, well, see, then that changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. You know, I think the other reason was there was other stuff that was on. You know what? I'll tell you what it is. I just couldn't handle cruise ship comedy because there was what was that show? And you grew up with it because my kids watched it. There was Ryan Gosling got his start on it, where he was playing on that boat. There were these kids that were working on this ship.
I think I'm too
And
old.
his name
No
was
idea.
Jimmy, you know, and the other guy was he played in the series Earl. Remember,
Yeah, that I remember.
he played that
Yeah.
big oafish brother of his. Those two guys got it was a Disney cartoon. It was a Disney thing like the Hotel one or whatever, but it was on a ship. Anyhow,
I think what I'm doing with Love Boat, I just realized this just as we're talking right now, is so Love Boat to me was escapism when I was a kid, much like wrestling is. So what I find myself doing now is because Love Boat is a single episode is a cruise, right? They leave dock. There's a whole there's 3 stories happening, then they come back and they finish up the stories, right? They wrap them all up nicely, right?
Fantasy Island, same thing.
Yeah, I watched with my mom as a kid, and I have them on DVD. And when I watch a Love Boat, I have drinks like a whiskey sour or a rum and coke. And I think as an adult, I'm again going on that voyage. I'm going on that cruise. I am on the Love Boat when I'm watching Love Boat. I actually feel like I am one of the passengers
Damn.
on the Love Boat. Yeah,
It takes it far.
yeah, and
Cool though.
yeah, so I just realized talking to you now how I always talk about wrestling as escapism, but that's exactly what the Love Boat is for me. I sit down, I'm going to watch an episode of Love Boat. I've got some fancy drinks, and
So my next question is: have you ever been, or are you going to go on a cruise?
yes, I would love to someday. Just the opportunity didn't present itself. Sylvia has some motion sickness on
okay,
water,
yeah.
but people have said to me that probably won't be an issue on a cruise.
Because it's so big.
Yeah.
Plus, there's like drugs for that, isn't there?
Yeah, you know, I had a friend though, a really good friend, Johnny, and same thing. He said it wasn't on a cruise. It was a week later,
Oh, really?
and he's a guy that never gets sick, and he had to be hospitalized. Like the whole balanced vertigo thing.
I've had real vertigo, like after my mom died. Oh, bing. You can't get through a podcast without me talking about it.
Yeah.
I had really bad vertigo, and man, that messes with you.
Yeah.
Like I really could be sitting in this chair like this and not be able to hold my balance.
Like he said, I'm
Wild.
glad I never had a gun in the house because I'd have shot him. He shot himself right then and there. You're like,
Man.
yeah. So, you know, but I hope you get to go on that cruise.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
thanks.
You know, because I think that's one of those full circle things in life for you. I think that would be cool.
In a sense, I've been on lots of cruises on the Pacific Princess, right? With Captain Stubing, Doc, Isaac, right? Gopher, Julie,
You know
Vicky.
what? Marshall, you know, from all the articles I read, you know, I don't talk to you that much, but man, you are a guy that makes a lot out of a little.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
In a good way. Like,
oh,
a lot of people can
absolutely.
make a lot out of a little in the wrong way, but Marshall is the other direction, and that's why it makes him the special person that he is.
you know what?
Thanks, guys.
I think, you know, I am going to swear, but I think you can take chicken shit and make actually chicken fried steak out of it.
Thanks.
And I say that sincerely. Okay, so any closing comments on the like if you had to do it over again the last 2 years, what's I'll give you some time to think what you would do differently, but can you pick one highlight moment or one thing that's gone well, other than the fact that you guys are like great personalities and you bring the best out in people, but and I'm not pointing to an exception. You know, don't say this guest was great or that sort of thing. I don't want to personalize it, but what's a highlight after 2 years? Like just the two of you that you're still together and you haven't killed each other, or your friendship's growing stronger, or the enjoyment.
Yeah, this is a really good question. Friendship has grown stronger, 100%. I think Marshall and I understand each other and how to work together without getting any weird worky type stuff involved. Am I right, Marshall?
Yeah.
Can you say it better than me? You're the writer.
Oh, that's a good. It's not bad. It's
not bad.
Because I think a lot of people know where that weird worky stuff, like people
Yeah.
come, I got a work wife. No, you shouldn't have a work wife.
No, we were just talking about that. We don't like that
I don't
term
like
at all.
that term at all.
No.
We don't like it at all.
No.
Well, it's a podcast. We didn't open a restaurant, right? Like
That's right.
Like how
We're
does
supposed to be having fun.
how does that not go wrong?
Yeah. That's one of your greatest fears, isn't it? Opening up
opening a restaurant.
putting everything into one basket.
Yeah.
I would say I wouldn't do this differently, but we definitely do this wrong. And I'll explain myself. When you create a podcast, you're supposed to create something in a certain genre for a subsect of people that want to listen to a specific thing that you're covering and that you're discussing. Good. So that's supposed to appeal to the masses. Anybody on the earth with access to these audio files should be able to access it and be interested. You should be appealing to the masses of the earth. Well, we decided to make a hyper-local podcast about our little city here, which is not so little, and to focus solely on these people, aside from, I always bring it up, Bonn Park, the Korean-German playwright who we interviewed because his name is Bonn Park and we couldn't not, and he was gracious enough to meet us with English and talk to us in the middle of the night a few months back. But we're doing it wrong. You're supposed to appeal to the masses. That's not what we're up to here, but it's working for us and it's making us very happy. I've learned so much about myself and about my friend Marshall here, creating this project.
Yeah, for me, the growth, I just have to go back and listen to early episodes and hear what we were trying to do.
Oh, it's sound quality.
And then somehow it's like if we released, if we were musicians and we released 10 records, it's like going back and listening to your first record kind of thing. And so that to me is incredibly rewarding, is to say, somewhere we hit our stride somewhere. And sometimes it's just a small adjustment Sarah will make or suggest. And then we do that and it actually gets easier. Isn't that something, eh?
Yeah.
How you go?
Well, there's no substitute for experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, some people, if you keep doing the same wrong thing over and over again, they call that insanity. Mm-hmm. So you guys obviously aren't insane. Because
you're evolving and changing, and we're trying to move forward all the time. We're well over 100 episodes, so we've put in time, that's for sure.
So Sarah, in my own life, in my own personal life, I'm not the one to move anything forward. Like, I would still be living in our condo. It's always was Sylvia who would say, I think let's move into a house.
That's
right?
Guys in general. We're just dogs. We'll sleep under the tree.
Same goes with any vacation, right? I go, I don't know. She goes, no, once you're there, you're going to love it. Right?
Yeah.
And I always do, right? Yeah. And a lot of things like that happen like that. I'm not looking too far ahead ever.
Yeah.
So it's very important that Sarah says with her lists, things, okay, this is where we're at. This is what we should be doing next, right? And I listen to it all, and it feels overwhelming sometimes, but it's always the right thing to do. I just need to be kind of sometimes explain something 3 times even, right? Like, and there's this constant resistance.
Those are great answers. Those are the kind of questions I should have been asking earlier.
No, this has been way too much fun.
But so you can cut out and keep what you want. So is it fair to ask, where do you see Bonn Park a year from now?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to change? Are you ever going to venture out of the community in terms of guests for this show? Like, would you... In Bonn Park, for instance, let's say you had the opportunity to talk to John Tory or something not too ridiculous, but or why would you want to talk to a politician? I'm not so sure.
I can speak. Yeah, that's true. I can speak to where we're headed. Marshall can tell you how many super famous people he has decided not to interview for our show to keep this hyper local.
Yeah, I've been there and done that.
Okay.
And you have access to this catalog of people to interview at any time that you want.
Yeah, and it was a blast. I for 15 years I interviewed Ringo Starr, William Shatner, Olivia Newton-John, Lisa Marie Presley, Chris Christopherson, Merle Haggard, tons of actors, tons of pop culture people, musicians, athletes, and at some point it actually became like not very exciting to me anymore. So when Sarah came up with the idea of let's talk to local folk here in town, somehow like that flipped for me. That became, that's who I want to talk to. Mm-hmm.
Again, testament to your humility, because I don't think a lot of people. I know, like, I actually read your article when you interviewed David Foster, but I wasn't even aware that you interviewed that many people.
Yeah.
I know you've interviewed some, but, like, you know, when you say Olivia Newton-John and stuff like that, I'm like, wow. And so people don't know that about you, and because you don't really put it out there, where there's, you know, a lot of people said that would be a stepping stone for more. They want to be seen. I don't know what the word for it.
No, people want to be seen for sure, and they want to feel important. And you don't even brag about the fact that you're a regular writer for Slam magazine,
For
right?
Slam Wrestling, yeah.
Slam Wrestling.
There's also things about connecting with celebrities is not always a lot of fun.
Wasn't that interview with David Foster in an airport?
Yeah, he was in an airport.
On a payphone.
On a payphone, yeah. And
it's not glamorous.
No.
And there's handlers and there's agents and there's people who you have to talk to first.
Yeah.
And they're very, very controlling.
Yeah.
And they tell you, sometimes they try to feed you the questions, right? They tell you what you're not going to talk about. I remember Lisa Marie's person called me the night before and spent half an hour on the phone saying, here's what you won't be talking about. It was a long list, right? And then sometimes, even when you talk to them, you feel like they probably would rather be doing something else. You know what I mean? And understandably, they've done a million interviews, right?
Yeah. Do you mind me asking who was the most genuine you felt interview that you did? If you can pin it down, or one person that you felt like, hey, he really is talking to me.
Yeah, that would be Neil Peart of Rush.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, a whole hour with him.
All right.
I just like felt like old friends or something.
Oh, yeah. I could see that, though, too. I think all those guys from Rush are like that, aren't they?
I think so. Yeah. To me, they were almost mystical. I never imagined even being able to talk to one of them someday. That's like the Beatles, right?
Yeah.
But also, Jan Arden is an incredible person to interview.
Is she?
Yeah, just amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
But what about you, Sarah? Have you ever interviewed like any celebs or anything like that? Or
No. I mean, aside from Marshall. And actually you, Les, because you're the most successful, most listened to episode
we're not
we've
going
ever
there.
had. It's a fact. You have more listens than anybody else. Sorry, guys.
That's just high school crap. There are a bunch of kids that got on social media and, you know.
Well, it's still a fact. No, you know what is really important for me is we've had a few people come up to us after the fact or contact us after an interview and say, you know, that was amazing. Like, and I'm not talking celebrities. I've never interviewed a celebrity other than you. They'll come back to us and say, you know, wow, like I'm never given the space to tell my story. I'm never given that room. It's always sound bites and how fast can we get this in? And it's live on the radio. And we've had a few people. I know Mike Morris, the snow sculptor, Snowbank Productions. He let us know that. And Luke Swinson, local artist as well, just took that time to come back and say, wow, that was awesome. Thank you for taking the time to let me, tell it how it is.
And I love that. Like, I love the angle you're going at. This is kind of going maybe where this interview should have. Not specifically, but have you had difficult interviews where it was like pulling teeth from people, or it was just like, ay.
We've talked to Mike Farwell about that too when he was our repeat guest on our show. And when we're on his show, when he's gracious enough to have us on the Mike Farwell show, I'm always throwing that ball back as fast as possible. He asks a question and I just answer it as quick as possible. And I might even add at the end, Marshall, just to get it away from me. Just like somebody else answer this question. I'm nervous and this is live and I don't know how to talk on the radio. But definitely we've had people, because we're not talking to celebrities or people who have been press prepped or, who have PR people. We're talking to people who are just regular Joes in our town, and it's hard for some of them to get out what they want to say, and it takes time, and sometimes, of course, the best stuff happens after you hit stop on record.
But that's all, folks.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.